Hey guys, tonight we're riding straight into the windswept heart of the 13th century, right? Into the raw, rhythmic daily life of the Mongol Empire. You open your eyes inside a low felt tent, or jeer, as the Mongols call it. The air is smoky from last night's fire, and thick with the earthy smell of wool, wood ash, and something musky. Animal? Definitely animal. A breeze presses through the seams of the round walls, whispering like a ghost through the grasslands. You blink against the dim light, leaking through the roof opening, and for a moment wonder where the ceiling fan went. You reach instinctively for your phone. Nope, not there. No clock, no mattress, no soft pillow. Just a thin woolen blanket, a floor made of packed dirt under old rugs, and a slightly sore back that feels like you slept on a tree stump, which, in a way, you did. Welcome to the Mongol steppe where sunrise is your alarm clock, and your to-do list includes not offending a warlord before breakfast. This is not a dream. You've landed in the center of the most mobile, disciplined, and hard-edged society of its time. And frankly, you probably won't survive this. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. I'd also love to know where you're listening from. Drop your location and your local time in the comments. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You sit up slowly, cocooned in layers of scratchy wool. The inside of the G-air is warm but not cozy. The fire in the center has died to a few orange embers, and the chill from outside is starting to creep in. It's still technically night, but the camp is already stirring. Hooves thump outside. A woman's voice barks instructions you can't understand. Somewhere, a dog snarls, then gets shouted down by a child not older than 10. You realize very quickly, this world does not wait for you to adjust. You push aside the flap and step into the cold, and wow, it's cold. Not crisp, not brisk. More like an open-hand slap from the wind gods. The dawn is pale and colorless, the sky a soft smear of slate and silver. Around you, the camp is waking up fast. Smoke spirals from small chimneys poking out of dozens of jars dotting the horizon. Horses stand tethered in tight rows, stamping and snorting. Kids run barefoot in the frost like they're on a summer beach vacation. And the adults? Already at work. You don't even have time to figure out who's in charge before a bowl is pushed into your hands. Wooden. Warm. Inside, a milky, foamy liquid jiggles slightly as you walk. You peer into it. It smells sharp, sour, a little yeasty. You take a sip. Your eyes widen. It's like someone fermented yogurt, added vinegar, then let it go flat and fizzy at the same time. This is Arag fermented mare's milk, and apparently, it's your breakfast. A few nearby herders glance your way. One laughs when he sees your expression. Not cruelly, just like someone who's seen many first-timers react exactly the same way. You nod in return, trying to play it cool, even as your stomach sends up a polite inquiry like, hey, was that safe? One mainstream historical fact. Mongol children began riding horses as early as age 2. By 4, they could guide a mount with their knees and shoot a bow. You, by contrast, are struggling not to drop your breakfast. You shuffle to the edge of the camp, trying to look useful or at least less confused. Then, just as you're beginning to feel like maybe you can fake your way through the morning, an older manlin, lined face, braided beard points to a pile of something dry and lumpy and hands you a basket. Dung. Yep. Dried horse or cow dung, collected for use as fuel. Wood is rare out here, but animals? Not so much. This isn't punishment, it's a daily chore. Still, it's not exactly how you imagined medieval life. You imagined swords. Glory. Maybe a horse of your own. Instead, you're on poop duty. The air stings your cheeks as you gather the fuel lumps, dropping them into the basket with a resigned sigh. You're not alone. Others do the same, chatting casually, as if this is no big deal, which of course it isn't. Just part of life on the steppe. A breeze picks up, carrying the smell of dung, smoke, and something cooking, maybe mutton stew. Honestly, it could be worse. Somewhere across camp, a deep, resonant sound begins a kind of layered vibration that seems to come from the earth itself. You stop. It's someone throat singing, a practice still passed down today among Mongolic peoples. The sound is haunting and beautiful, rising and falling like wind through the rock canyons. It gives the morning an unexpected magic, a rhythm to move by. You pause, soothed in spite of yourself. A small goat trots past, untethered and smug. You bend down to pet it. It dodges. You trip. Somewhere behind you, someone lets out a snort laugh. An old woman, swaddled in wool and leaning on a stick, watches with visible amusement. She says something you can't understand, but her grin is enough to know it's not unkind. You nod sheepishly and return to your basket. Fringe tidbit. Some jeers were aligned so that their doorways faced south, offering protection from the cold northern winds and maximum sunlight. Others were aligned to watch the stars. The steppe was never random. Everything here has function and intent, including you, hopefully. Eventually, someone whistles a loud, sharp sound. All around you, the energy changes. The camp, which had been busy but calm, shifts into motion. Horses are pulled forward, saddles appear, and men begin breaking down tents with shocking speed. It's like watching a traveling circus vanish in under 10 minutes. Blankets are rolled, poles are folded. Everything disappears into packs and carts, efficient and practiced. Historians still argue whether the Mongol encampments were arranged strictly by military command structure or if they were laid out by familial clans. But either way, the organization is precise. You, however, have no idea where to stand, what to carry, or who to follow. The jur you slept in? Already half gone. A teenage boy wraps its felt walls like a picnic blanket while you're still fumbling with your boots. Panic sets in. You try to help, but your hands are too slow. A horse startles as you pass by, and you nearly tumble into it. Someone grabs your collar and pulls you aside. A tall man with a weathered face, wearing leather armor patched with iron, stares you down for a moment. Then, without a word, he tosses you a sheepskin tunic. You put it on. It's too big and smells faintly of old smoke and sweat. But hey, it's warm. And just like that, the camp is moving. The entire camp. People mount up. Carts roll. Dogs trot after them, barking. No one shouts a formal order or blows a bugle. Everyone just knows. It's a choreography older than memory. You, however, are left standing in the middle of it, as like someone who's missed the bus and isn't sure what city they're in. And for the first time, you realize this isn't a reenactment. This is your new life. And if you don't catch up, you'll be left behind. You're handed the reins of a pony so small it almost looks like a joke. Short legs, wide chest, thick shaggy coats like a horse designed by someone with a sense of humor and a strong sense of survival. This is not a Western stallion. It's a Mongol steppe pony, and it is infinitely tougher than you. You fumble with the leather straps, trying to copy the motions of the others. No one helps. No one explains. Mongols grow up with horses the way you grew up with shoes. They're just always there. By the time a child can talk, they're already riding. You, on the other hand, are still trying to figure out which side of the saddle is the front. The saddle, by the way, is high and rigid, designed for stability during long rides and sudden combat maneuvers. There's no stirrup padding, no comfort accessories, no saddle horn to hold on to while you panic. It's not built for beginners. It's built for warriors who can stand up while galloping and fire arrows in either direction. You swing your leg up and nope. The horse sidesteps. You try again. It moves the other way. A third time, you manage to throw yourself into the saddle, but land badly, jamming something you didn't even know could be jammed. The horse looks back at you like, really? A boy who can't be more than 10 hops up beside you and takes off at a gallop. His bow is slung across his back. His boots are tied with rawhide. He doesn't glance at you, he just disappears into the dust trail. You feel older and less coordinated than ever. You finally get the pony to move, but it walks like it knows you're a fraud. It jerks its head. You clutch the reins too tight. Someone nearby barks a correction in Mongolian. You loosen your grip slightly, trying to pretend you understood. The steppe stretches out endlessly before you, rolling grasslands, distant mountains, no landmarks, no roads. Just instinct and sky. Mainstream historical fact: Mongol messengers in the imperial relay system called the Yamkud ride hundreds of miles a day by switching horses at outposts. They navigated by wind, stars, and memory. You can't even remember how to turn left. The caravan picks up speed. Dozens of riders thunder ahead. The air fills with hoofbeats and dust. You bounce in the saddle like a sack of potatoes. Your knees ache within minutes. Your spine has entered a negotiation with your tailbone, and they're both losing. No one slows down for you. You're lucky not to get trampled. Your hands cramp from gripping the reins. Your mouth is dry. Your vision shakes with every jolt. And yet there's something exhilarating about it too. The cold air in your lungs, the thunder of hooves, the endless sky. For a brief second, you forget how out of place you are. Then your pony stops dead to scratch its nose against a bush and dumps you flat on your back. The fall knocks the wind out of you. You stare up at the sky, hearing the last of the riders vanish over a hill. You groan. A vulture circles lazily overhead. You're fine. Mostly. But wow, this just got very real. A rider doubles back a tall woman with a bow across her chest and a leather helmet strapped under her chin. She stares down at you, expression unreadable. Then she dismounts, grabs your pony's reins, and points at your saddle straps. They're wrong. Very wrong. Without speaking, she tightens them, adjusts the stirrups, checks your boots. It takes 2 minutes. Then she nods and mounts again. No lecture, no kindness, just quiet efficiency. You get the feeling she once outran a sandstorm and didn't even mention it afterward. Historians still debate the roles of Mongol women in military life. Some argue they served primarily on the home front. Others believe women sometimes joined raids and battles, especially during emergencies or internal conflict. Either way, the respect shown to skilled riders and archers, regardless of gender, is undeniable. You remount, sore and humbled. This time the pony responds a little better. You find a rhythm. Not comfortable exactly, but tolerable. You follow the tracks ahead, trying to catch up to the dust cloud in the distance. You pass a few herders driving a small flock of sheep. One waves. Another points toward a low ridge. You nod and try to smile, still too winded to speak. They seem amused by you, but not unkindly. Maybe they've seen lost travelers before. Maybe everyone starts like this. Fringe fact: Mongol riders used a unique rhythm when riding, almost like a chant or internal cadence that let them time shifts in posture and balance. Some even claim they could doze lightly while in the saddle. You, on the other hand, are very awake and very aware that your butt hurts in 7 separate places. Hours pass. The land shifts subtly under you. Fewer grasses, more patches of rock. A scent of wild thyme drifts in the breeze. The group finally slows by a small stream where horses drink and riders dismount to stretch. You collapse off the pony like a melting snowman. A nearby warrior chuckles and tosses you a piece of dried meat. You're not sure if it's a peace offering or just a snack. Either way, you chew gratefully. It's bortz, dried mutton so tough, it's basically edible leather. The Mongols used it for rations on long campaigns. It lasts for months and rehydrates in stew. You chew it for approximately 2 geologic epochs before swallowing. The group eats in silence. No chatter. Just efficiency. When it's time to ride again, they're up and moving in under a minute. You groan, remount, and begin again. There's no schedule, no map, no, well, stop when you're tired. This is the rhythm of the empire, relentless, measured by hooves and wind and muscle. And if you can't keep up well, no one's carrying you. As the sun climbs higher, you begin to feel every joint. Your knees have opinions, your spine files complaints. Your pony is the only one not suffering, and even he seems bored with you. But you ride on because there is no alternative. And you realize this isn't a journey. This is just a regular Tuesday on the steppe. You're aching in places you didn't know could ache. Your thighs feel like they've been slow roasted over a fire. Your back is staging a rebellion, and your knees now crack audibly whenever you shift. The Mongols, meanwhile, look fine. They ride with the ease of people who've done this their whole lives. Some are even napping in the saddle. You, however, are just trying not to fall off again. The caravan halts around midday near a flat patch of land dotted with low shrubs. A few jers are being reassembled with stunning speed. Women start tending to fires. Children chase one another between horses. Someone yells out, and a large pot is brought forward. You hobble toward the smell, hoping for something hot and soothing. You're handed a bowl again. It's steaming, oily, and contains chunks of something gray and chewy. You hesitate, but the hunger outweighs caution. You take a bite. It's fatty, rich, and surprisingly tasty until the aftertaste hits. There's a tang, slightly sour, almost fermented. Then you realize it's organ meat, boiled with bone marrow and thickened with blood. A classic Mongol camp stew. Mainstream historical fact. The Mongol diet was high in fat and protein, based on livestock meat, milk, cheese, yogurt. Grain was rare unless looted. For hydration, they drank fermented milk, broths, or melted snow. They valued efficiency, not variety. A warrior beside you slurps his portion down in seconds. You try to follow suit but struggle with the unfamiliar flavors and textures. A woman nearby passes around a leather flask. You sip more arag. By now, you've grown slightly more tolerant of its tang. Slightly. Then from behind, someone lets out a loud laugh. You turn to see 2 warriors pointing at you. One gestures in a circle, the other pats his stomach. You realize you've been holding your belly and grimacing for 10 straight minutes. Welcome to the camp joke. You're famous now. Probably with a nickname like Curd Belly. After the meal, you're expected to help unload the supply cart. It's not just bags and tools. You are handed a whole goat carcass, slung over one shoulder like luggage. It's heavy, awkward, and still vaguely warm. You try to carry it like you've done this before, but end up dropping it on your foot. No one helps. One guy whistles a short tune that suspiciously sounds like mock applause. The rest of the camp, meanwhile, moves with military-level synchronization. A fire's already blazing, gears are fully assembled, and someone's already milking a yak. You've barely managed to stand up without groaning. Fringe fact: Mongol cooks didn't always season their food with salt instead. They often use dried animal blood or fermented milk to create umami flavors. You try not to think too hard about what's still stuck in your teeth. Just as you're hoping for a break, A man in layered armor walks over and points at a small leather pouch hanging from your belt. He says something sharp, eyes narrowing. You freeze. Did you break a rule? Is it forbidden to wear your tunic like this? Is the pouch offensive? He reaches out and opens it. Inside, a small cloth you tucked away earlier, part of your modern clothing. He examines it, then says a word that sounds like a warning. The tone is clear, don't do that again. Historians still argue whether the Yasat legal code attributed to Genghis Khan was written down or purely oral. Either way, it was strict, and ignorance wasn't a defense. You've already violated something, and that cloth might have been seen as disrespectful, or even a symbol of theft. You nod. Apologize, even if he doesn't understand. He studies your face, then walks away. You exhale. The rest of the afternoon is filled with more chores. You help gather firewood well, not wood exactly. More like scrub and dung again. You fetch water in leather buckets that leak slightly, soaking your boots. You help tie down flapping tent flaps that snap like whips in the wind. And at one point, you get handed a knife and told be gesture to skin a rabbit. You hesitate. The rabbit is already dead, but your hands shake. The man next to you takes the knife, shows you how it's done swift, clean, efficient. He doesn't smile, but he nods slightly after you try it yourself. Not perfect, but passable. And that apparently is enough. As the sun drops lower, the temperature falls fast. Someone throws you an extra coat coarse wool, patched with fur. You put it on and suddenly feel okay. Not warm, but no longer freezing. Your breath fogs in the air. The sky turns golden, then violet. Horses munch quietly nearby. The sounds of the camp soften. For a moment, you just watch. Fires flicker. Shadows stretch. A woman laughs as she tells a story by gesture, her hands animated against the firelight. Two boys pretend to sword fight with sticks, their giggles ringing out into the dusk. A dog curls beside a pile of furs, tail twitching. You realize that, beneath all the harshness, there is rhythm here. A kind of peace. It's not the peace of stillness, it's the peace of knowing your place, your role, your skills. You don't have that yet, but maybe you could. Maybe, given time, and then your stomach flips. Whatever was in that stew is staging a full revolt. You lurch behind a tent and pray to every deity you've ever heard of. Yep. Definitely not surviving 24 hours. Evening settles quickly on the steppe. 1 minute the sky is painted in dusty pinks and golds. The next it's a velvet sheet studded with stars. No streetlights, no hum of traffic, just 1,000 pinpricks of light above you and the crackling of nearby campfires. Sounds peaceful, right? Well, sure, until someone starts shouting. It's not angry shouting. More like sharp commands. A group of warriors is gathering near the center of the camp. You're waved over. You glance around for an excuse, your knees, your stomach, your overwhelming sense of inadequacy, but none will save you here. You walk over, trying not to limp. You join a loose ring of figures seated around a large fire. There's a silence as someone steps forward. A man with a thick beard, fur-lined sleeves, and a curved sword at his waist. His eyes are keen, his posture rigid. You can tell instantly that this man has the power to ruin your night or your life. He speaks, slowly and firmly, to the group. You understand none of the words, but the tone is unmistakable. His giving orders, rules, reminders. It's not casual, it's not optional. It's law. This, you realize, is your crash course in Yasat, the famous legal code of Genghis Khan. Mainstream historical fact. The Yasa was a set of laws believed to be created by Genghis Khan to unify his growing empire. It governed everything from military discipline to marriage, theft, hospitality, and even how to treat animals. It was written down in his lifetime, but the rules were remembered, enforced, and feared. You sit motionless as the list of don'ts is recited. Some you catch by watching others' reactions: no stealing, no lying, no harming messengers. Others are harder to guess. At one point, a man near you spits into the fire. The speaker stops mid-sentence and glares. No one moves. No one breathes. Then a second man yanks the offender backward by the collar and drags him out of the circle. Just like that. You don't know what the punishment will be, and you don't want to find out. The Mongol Empire didn't do gentle warnings. Their laws were clear and brutal. Thieves were executed or maimed. Adultery? Death. Disobedience in war? Definitely death. Disrespect to elders or leaders? You guessed it, still death. There's a distinct theme here. You swallow and try to look appropriately law-abiding. Fringe tidbit. Some Mongol laws even banned washing clothes during thunderstorms. Why? Because it was believed that thunder was sacred, and disturbing water during storms could anger the spirits. Whether this was a universal rule or regional superstition is debated, but either way, maybe don't do laundry tonight. The man continues, now reading from a thin leather scroll. You glance at it and realize it's not just laws. It's also lists of names, assignments. Someone next to you stiffens as their name is called. Another grins. You're not on the list, obviously. You're not even sure anyone knows your name. But then a finger points. At you. You freeze. Everyone looks your way. You think, oh no. What did I do now? The speaker says something clearly a question. You shrug helplessly. Another man steps forward and gestures. Stand. Come forward. You do. Slowly. Barely breathing. You're shown an Itema curved knife with a wooden handle, and the speaker pantomimes a very specific movement. Not stabbing, not threatening, cutting. He draws a line along an imaginary animal's neck. Oh, it's a butchering assignment. They're not asking you to fight. Yet. They just want you to help with food prep. It's a small mercy. You nod. Clumsily mime your understanding. A few men chuckle. Historians still argue whether Yasa applied equally to all Mongol citizens or whether elite classes had special privileges. But one thing is certain. In the field, under the command of a general, everyone had a role, even visitors from the future. After the meeting breaks up, a woman hands you a rawhide strip with 3 small knots. She points at your tent, then at a central pole by the fire. It takes you a minute, but you get it. You're supposed to tie this strip on your jeer to show that your fire is out for the night. A kind of do not disturb sign, 13th century edition. You tie it as best you can. Someone else adjusts it after you walk away. You return to your tent, hoping to curl up and process the day. But before you get there, another figure blocks your path. A younger man, this time maybe 20, with an amused grin and sharp eyes. He speaks rapidly and points at your boots, then his own. He pantomimes, "A chase? Oh, you're being challenged to a foot race." You look around. Several others gather. This is a game, a test. A way of placing you deciding whether you're useful or funny or both. You take your place at the starting line. The ground is flat and hard. Your legs still hurt from the ride, but pride won't let you walk away. Someone yells, you run, your boots are too big. You trip, twice. The others blaze ahead. You come in dead last, but not by much. One kid claps you on the shoulder. Another hands you a strip of dried cheese. Not a prize. Just acknowledgement. You tried. That's something. Later, as you sit outside your tent, you watch the stars wheel overhead in patterns that have guided nomads for generations. The fire has burned low. Horses breathe quietly. Somewhere, someone hums a lullaby in a low voice. You made it through the first full day under Mongol law. Barely. And just when you're beginning to relax, you remember that man who got dragged away for spitting. You still haven't seen him come back. Morning on the steppe doesn't creep in gently, it smacks you in the face with cold air and noise. Horses neighing, metal clanging, people shouting. You jolt awake inside your jeer to find the roof vent wide open and your blanket halfway across the room. Someone must have kicked it while stepping over you. You sit up slowly, joints stiff, eyes gritty. Outside, the light is already harsh, the wind sharper than yesterday. You think maybe they'll let you rest. Maybe this will be a lighter day. Then someone yells your name or something close enough to it, and you're handed your horse's reins again. You sigh and stagger out into the bright, freezing chaos. Today's not about travel. It's about movement, drills, marching formations, and what you will soon realize, absolute, remorseless discipline. Mainstream historical fact. Mongol troops were required to ride for hours at a time, sometimes over 20 miles without stopping, and had to be ready to turn, charge, or split into units at a moment's notice. Their ability to maneuver in tight formations, even at full gallop, was unmatched in medieval warfare. You mount up this time with slightly more grace. Your thighs still burn from yesterday, but you're adapting or going numb. Either works. You follow the others out to a wide, flat plain. Rows of mounted warriors are already forming. Columns, lines, shapes. You don't understand the commands, but you feel the rhythm. When one rider moves, the others respond instantly. You try to mimic the pattern and end up in the wrong row. A rider behind you shouts. Another grabs your reins and yanks your pony sideways, slotting you into place. No one slows down. You're expected to keep pace or not at all. The practice begins with riding in synchronized loops. You're too busy trying not to fall off again to admire the formation, but even you can tell. It's terrifyingly precise. Horses thunder in arcs, riders lifting in their saddles to fire invisible arrows. You do your best, but your form is all elbows in panic. You accidentally steer your pony into another rider space, nearly cause a collision, and earn a withering glare from a general. Fringe fact: Mongol horses were trained to respond to whistled commands and knee pressure, freeing up the rider's hands for combat. Some generals could coordinate entire units through a single horn blast or flag signal. You, on the other hand, are still yelling "whoa" like your pony speaks English. It doesn't. It also ignores you. The next drill is a mock pursuit. One group takes off across the plain, pretending to flee. The rest give chase. You get grouped with the chasers. You're not sure how. Before you can ask, someone slaps your pony's flank and off you go. The wind roars in your ears. The ground blurs beneath you. The riders ahead weave and shift, cutting left and right. You try to follow but get jostled to the side. A rider overtakes you, his bow slung casually as he turns in his saddle and pretends to fire. You duck too late and nearly tumble off. Someone barks a laugh behind you. You finally slow, panning, and turn in a wide circle to find the others reforming back near the camp. That wasn't even a real battle, just a drill. And you're already soaked in sweat and shaking. Historians still argue whether Mongol training was standardized across the empire or adapted locally depending on the tribe or region. What's clear is that the training was relentless and it worked. This was just survival. It was dominance by practice. You return to the gathering point, sliding out of the saddle with a quiet whimper. Your legs buckle. No one helps. Again. But a young rider hands you a flask of water and tilts his head slightly, half pity, half respect. You nod in thanks. Then comes the fun part. Learning how to camp like a soldier. You're handed a mallet, a bundle of stakes, and a rolled up ger wall. There are no instructions, just expectant stares. You begin awkwardly unfolding the felt, trying to copy what others are doing nearby. There's a frame, a door frame, crossbeams, and many ropes. You manage to get the base started before the wind picks up and flips one whole wall section into your face. Someone chuckles. Eventually, a woman walks over not to help, but to speed things up. She yanks the frame into place, ties the knots properly, and secures the felt in less than 5 minutes. You stand there holding a rope that was supposed to be attached 10 minutes ago. She doesn't say anything. Just nods once, like, "Don't do that again," and walks away. You try to be useful by helping with the fire. You gather the fuel, arrange the stones, and strike the flint you were handed earlier. The spark catches. A small fire springs to life. You smile, proud until a child walks up, tosses on some extra dung, and gets the flames roaring in seconds. Then he walks away, unimpressed. You're officially less competent than an 8-year-old. Later, you're brought a bowl of something warm. This time, it's a thin broth with pieces of dried meat and flour dumplings floating inside. You drink it gratefully. No aftershocks from your stomach, thank goodness. As you eat, a man with an elaborately patterned sash joins you. He sits, adjusts his boots, and begins carving something from bone casually, rhythmically. After a few minutes, he shows it to you. It's a small figure, maybe a horse or a goat. Beautiful in its simplicity. Fringe fact, Mongols often carved bone or wood figures, sometimes as toys, sometimes as talismans. They also used sheep ankle bones shagai as dice or game pieces, and could tell fortunes from how the bones landed. The man hands the carving to you. A gift. No words exchanged. You bow your head slightly. He nods and walks off. You sit alone for a while, staring at the figure in your palm. The day has beaten you down, exhausted you, but not crushed you. There's something about the way these people move, work, endure. They don't ask if you're tired. They assume you are and that you'll push through anyway. You look out at the plains. The sky is starting to darken again. The wind carries smoke and distant hoofbeats. And tomorrow, it starts all over again. By now, you've accepted that comfort is not part of the Mongol vocabulary. Neither is sleeping in, or personal space, or really any concept you use to associate with a normal day. So when someone flings open the flap of your gear at sunrise and grunts at you, you don't even protest. You just groan, grab your boots, and shuffle out into the wind. The sky is clear, the air thin and sharp. Today, you learn how to build a camp from scratch. Not just your own tent, but an entire moving village. Everyone around you already knows exactly what to do. Supplies are unpacked, horses are untied, tools are distributed. You, meanwhile, stand there holding a wooden pole like a confused shepherd from a low-budget nativity play. The same stern woman from yesterday walks by and tosses you a heavy bundle of felt. You catch it barely, and she points at a bare patch of ground. Message received. You're building someone's gear. Again. This time, maybe it'll stay up longer than 20 minutes. You kneel, trying to recall the order. Lattice walls first, then the door frame, then the center ring and roof poles. It's like assembling a yurt-shaped IKEA project with no manual, while a storm brews around you and a horse keeps trying to sniff your ear. Mainstream historical fact. Mongol jurs were designed to be portable, wind-resistant, and could be disassembled or rebuilt within an hour. The walls folded like accordion gates, the roofs locked in place without nails, and the entire structure could be hauled on a cart pulled by oxen. Your version, however, collapses twice before you even get the door upright. Eventually, a pair of kids, maybe 12, maybe younger, walk over and wordlessly fix it for you. You try to help, but They're faster and stronger than you'd like to admit. One of them smirks and hands you a rope to tie. You do it wrong. They fix that too. You're sweating and freezing at the same time. Mongol weather is confusing like that. By midday, the whole camp is up and running again. Fires are lit. Horses are grazing. Meat is drying on racks. People are sharpening tools and checking gear. You assume it's time for lunch. You assume wrong. A group of elders gathers around a smoking bowl of herbs and ashes. A younger man, the same one who raced you on foot, is stripped to the waist and kneeling, his eyes closed. A rhythmic chant begins, low and steady. You are pulled forward by a woman who clearly wants you to see this. You are witnessing a shamanic ceremony. The smoke is thick and oddly sweet. It curls in lazy spirals, drifting toward the sky. The shaman, an older man with long gray hair and layers of beads and bones, begins beating a small drum in an irregular pulse. He throws something, perhaps dried herbs, perhaps animal fought into the fire, and the flames dance green for a second. It feels ancient. Fringe fact: Mongol shamans, or Bo, acted as healers, mediators with the spirit world, and interpreters of omens. They blended herbal medicine with spiritual rituals, often entering trances to travel between worlds. You watch, transfixed, as the kneeling man sways, then drops forward. His breathing slows. The chant intensifies. The shaman's voice rises to a rasping hum. Then suddenly, silence. Everyone holds their breath. And then the man sits up, eyes still closed, and begins to speak softly, slowly, in a voice that doesn't sound like his. People murmur. One woman cries quietly. A man nods solemnly. You don't understand a word, but you understand the weight of it. Historians still argue about how much influence shamans had in Mongol political decisions. Some believe they were sidelined as the empire became more structured. Others say their spiritual authority remained respected in times of crisis. What's clear is this: their presence was never just decorative. After the ceremony, the camp feels quieter. Not sad, just reflective. You sit on a rock outside your chair, staring at the horizon. You think about how different this world is, how everything seems to have meaning. Every movement, every silence, every gesture. Then someone throws a chunk of frozen butter at you. You catch it, confused, and look up to find a group of kids laughing. They point at your face, then at your cooking fire, then back at the butter. Oh, you're supposed to cook something with this. You fumble through the gear near your fire, finding a pot, some flour, maybe a dried turnip. You're not sure. You toss the butter in, stir vigorously, and pray for something edible. The result is a lumpy porridge that smells faintly of wet animal and sadness. A passing herder glances into your pot, raises one eyebrow, and keeps walking. You eat it anyway. Then, because the universe enjoys piling on, the wind picks up again. Hard. You rush to resecure the ropes on your jar as gusts tug at the felt like a toddler pulling a tablecloth. Dust stings your face. The horses grow restless. But you manage, just barely. As the sun drops and dinner is shared, you find yourself sitting near the edge of camp beside a few quiet men. They eat in silence. One offers you dry cheese. Another refills your flask. No one says a word, but you feel included. It's not praise. It's not warmth, but it's recognition. You're not good at anything yet, but you're still here. You watch the firelight flicker across the lines in their faces, the calluses on their hands, the worn leather of their coats. These are not mystical warriors or noble savages from a movie. They're people, skilled, disciplined, proud, tired, and real. You realize you've stopped thinking of them as them, which is nice, right until you remember that tomorrow's forecast includes a mock battle exercise, and you still can't shoot a bow. At this point, your entire body feels like a bundle of overused rope frayed, stretched, and slightly damp in places it shouldn't be. You've woken up every day sore, confused, and vaguely embarrassed. So when you're nudged awake before dawn and told to follow a group toward the ridge, you assume it's more riding. Maybe hauling something. Maybe another game you don't understand until someone throws a goat at you. But it's none of that. Instead, you're led to a low stone ring in the grass. Around it are bones, carved sticks, small bundles of fur. The fire in the center hadn't been lit yet, but it's surrounded by people dressed differently than anyone else you've seen in camp. You're about to attend a full spiritual rite this time, with you in it. You're nudged to sit. Not far from you, the shaman from yesterday, the one with the long gray hair and smoke-scarred drum sits, cross-legged, eyes half closed. The wind moves through the grass like a whisper. There are no tourists here, no chance for show, only silence, focus, and the slow stirring of something ancient. You shift awkwardly, unsure where to put your hands. A young woman seated next to you notices your discomfort. She presses something into your palm. A smooth stone, warm from her touch. She smiles once and looks away. You keep the stone closed in your hand. The ceremony begins without warning. The fire is lit not with flint, but with a glowing ember carried in a metal dish, cradled like it's alive. Dried herbs, juniper maybe, are dropped into the flames, sending up thick, fragrant smoke. The shaman begins to hum. Not a tune, not a melody, just tone deep and constant, like the sound of wind through a canyon. He holds up a carved goat skull and runs his hand over it. Slowly, deliberately. Then he speaks in short bursts. Names, perhaps. Invocations. The language is old, gravelly, and unfamiliar even to the other Mongols around you. It's not everyday speech, it's something more primal. Mainstream historical fact. Mongol shamanism centered on the concept of T and GRE, sky spirits or celestial deities, and local on-gods, ancestral spirits. Shamans served as intermediaries between this world and the spirit world, offering prayers, sacrifices, and trance dances to balance health, harmony, and fate. The shaman's voice grows louder. His drum joins in, the beat irregular, syncopated like a heartbeat trying to stay calm. Other voices join, low and breathy, not quite singing. A woman tosses more herbs into the fire, and the smoke thickens. You cough and try not to look like a complete outsider. It's not working. Then the shaman turns to you. His eyes are fixed on yours. He holds out a bundle wrapped in fur, tied with leather. You hesitate. He says something soft, measured. The woman next to you whispers a translation. You're being offered a protection charm. You reach out and take it. It's heavier than you expect. Inside, it sounds like there's a small stone, a few dried seeds, and maybe hair. You're not sure. It doesn't matter. You nod, clutching it against your chest like a child with a nightlight. Fringe tidbit. Some Mongol amulets were believed to contain fragments of spirit animals, buried bones, or even shavings from sacred trees. Whether they were protective, symbolic, or simply comforting, no one can say for sure. The ritual continues. Someone circles the group shaking a rattle. The sound is like rain on a roof, irregular but calming. Another beats a stretched skin drum in a slow rhythm. The fire cracks and hisses. A nearby man falls into a trance, head lolling slightly. You think he's asleep, but his eyes are wide open. Historians still debate the specific mechanisms of Mongol trance states. Some scholars believe rhythmic movement and smoke created a meditative dissociation. Others argue for mild hallucinogens from herbal blends. Regardless, the impact was real, and the authority of shamans unquestioned. You sit very still, hands resting over your charm, smoke curling in your hair, breath sinking almost to the drumbeat. You don't believe in magic, exactly, but you believe in this moment, whatever it is, and then it ends, just as suddenly as it began. The smoke thins, the drumming fades, people begin to stand. No clapping, no final blessing, just quiet dispersal, like the wind passing through. You remain seated for a while. The charm is still in your hand. You stare at the fire's remains, the gray ash swirling like dust devils across the earth. And then someone claps you on the shoulder. It's the younger warrior, the one who dragged you back during training. He nods toward the horses, then gestures for you to follow. You think you're going back to drills, but no, this is something else. He leads you to a different part of the steppe wide open stretch where several young riders are assembled. This, apparently, is Mounted Games Day, and you're the guest of honor / practice dummy. The first event is a type of horseback relay. 2 teams. One object a goatskin bag, heavy and awkward. The goal, scoop it up from the ground at full speed and toss it into a barrel while dodging other riders trying to block you. You watch in awe as they do it flawlessly, one after another, circling tight, leaning far out of the saddle, swinging back into position like it's nothing. Then it's your turn. You gallop, you reach, you miss, you nearly fall off. You do it again, and again. Eventually, the bag hits the target, but mostly because it bounces off the horse's neck and into the barrel by accident. Everyone cheers like it was intentional. Mainstream fact: Mongol riders developed such extraordinary balance that they could hang from the side of a horse to avoid arrows, or even shoot while nearly horizontal. It's not an exaggeration. It's just centuries of practice. Later, a new game, standing in the saddle while the horse walks. Simple in theory, terrifying in execution. Your knees shake, your arms flail. Someone offers you a stick for balance. You take it, then drop it, then fall into a bush. Applause again, polite, encouraging, mocking, it's hard to tell. You lie in the grass, laughing breathlessly. This is hard, but it's also fun. For once, you're not a burden, you're entertainment. And strangely, that's progress. The sun begins to dip. Horses are led back to the camp. You walk beside yours, too sore to ride. No one says much. But the warrior who brought you here hands you a strip of dried apricot. A treat. You accept it with a nod. As night falls, the charm still warm in your pocket, you realize something strange. You're starting to feel not safe, exactly, but anchored. Like the camp wouldn't feel complete without you anymore. Of course, that's usually when life in the Mongol Empire likes to remind you comfort is temporary. The next morning starts with the usual. Someone throwing open your jeers flap like it owes them money, grunting something urgent and pointing vaguely at your boots. You groan, barely awake, and reach for the now familiar pile of clothing, leather belt, wool tunic, and boots that somehow managed to get stiffer overnight. You shuffle outside, still adjusting your sash, blinking into the dawn like a mole. The wind is lighter today, but the mood in camp is not. You notice it immediately. There's no laughter, no games, no children chasing goats or elders sipping milk tea by the fire. People are moving quickly, quietly, and with purpose. Horses are being brushed, saddles inspected. Armor is laid out in neat rows. Weapons are sharpened and checked with reverent focus. Something is happening. You're pulled aside by a man you vaguely recognize. He gestures at your tunic, shakes his head, and tosses you another one. This one is cleaner, newer, and smells faintly of ashes and soap root. Someone else hands you a brush and nods toward your pony, who looks at you with the kind of expression that says, "We're both in trouble, aren't we?" Within the hour, you're lined up with everyone else on the outer edge of camp. Units form clean, disciplined rows. Men and women adjust their boots, brush stray hairs from their faces, tighten belts and straps. The entire camp has transformed into something orderly and intense. You're not sure what's going on until someone says a word you do understand, barely. Noyan. A commander is coming, maybe more than one. This is an inspection, mainstream historical fact. Under Genghis Khan and later his descendants, Mongol military structure was famously strict. Leaders could appear at any moment to inspect troops, animals, gear, or formations. Faults, even small ones, were noted. Some were punished, others were removed permanently. Soldiers were expected to be battle-ready at all times. No excuses, no exceptions. Your stomach tightens as hooves approach in the distance. A line of horses crests a nearby ridge by a man in dark furs and heavy lamellar armor. He's flanked by two other riders with long spears and stoic expressions. The commander's face is partially hidden by a hood, but you can feel his presence like a weight in the air. Calm, deliberate, dangerous. The horses slow as they enter camp. The commander begins riding down each line his gaze, sweeping from boots to bridles, from belt knots to bowstrings. He doesn't speak, not yet. He observes. Occasionally, he gestures. When he does, someone steps forward either to explain, correct, or, in one case, replace a faulty piece of equipment on the spot, and then he stops in front of you. Your throat dries instantly. You try to straighten your shoulders, only to realize they already hurt from carrying a saddle frame the day before. The commander speaks. A short, clipped question. You don't understand. He says it again, louder. A woman behind him whispers, "He asked your name." Oh, right. You managed to say it badly. He repeats it slowly, probably to remember how not to say it later. He looks down at your boots, then dismounts quickly, fluidly like a panther stepping out of a tree. He circles you once, glancing at your belt, your hands, your bow, which you didn't string properly, and then your hands again. He lifts your palm, studies it. You flinch, but he doesn't react. He's checking for calluses. Fringe fact. Mongol leaders didn't value wealth or flash, they valued resilience. Calloused hands meant work, and work meant worth. Some units were judged not by appearance, but by what the hands revealed. He lets go without a word, mounts his horse again, and moves on. You release a breath so long you almost faint. Someone claps you on the back a moment later. It's the young rider who raced you days ago. He smiles slightly and adjusts your belt loop. It's crooked. You fix it quickly. The inspection rolls forward. You step back into line, still half expecting someone to tap you on the shoulder and drag you off. But no one does. For now, you are safe. The rest of the day hums with that strange, jittery calm that follows the high-stakes tension. People repair things that were already fine. They polish knives that don't need it. They rebrush horses that were brushed that morning. It's a kind of communal exhale. You're put on arrow duty again, which has become one of the few things you don't actively mess up. You sit with a handful of boys and one very serious elder who barely speaks, watching him sharpen tips, balance shafts, and bind feathers with sinew so smoothly it's like weaving silk. He hands you a bundle of shafts to straighten. You use the heated stone to soften the wood, then bend it gently and let it cool. It's simple, repetitive work and oddly calming. You realize for the first time that your hands aren't shaking. Not from cold, not from fear. The elder finally looks at one of your finished arrows, tests it with a few taps on the ground, and gives a quiet grunt of approval. He doesn't smile, but you'll take it. Later, as the sun begins to dip, You're sent to help gather stones for a kulanbata, kind of improvised hot stone therapy for one of the elders whose knees have gone stiff. You don't get to stay for the bath, of course, but hauling buckets and heating stones without burning yourself feels oddly dignified, like you're part of something that works. As dusk falls, the camp unwinds. There's no feast or celebration, just the kind of quiet satisfaction that comes when everyone knows they survived a test. The commander's gone, the camp held together, no one was punished. And you? You weren't sent away. Someone tunes a Morin chord nearby. The notes bend gently in the air, slow, stretched, hollow. It's the kind of music that doesn't demand your attention. It just is. Like the wind, like the fire, like the horses breathing softly behind you. Fringe fact: Mongol musicians didn't play for crowds. They played for time itself, for journeys, for wind, for the soul. The melodies weren't always meant to be beautiful. They were meant to echo the land. You lie on your back, just outside your jeer, cloak wrapped around your shoulders. The stars stretch above you in perfect clarity, no haze, no light pollution, just an endless field of flickering silver. You spot the Big Dipper. Maybe Orion's belt. Maybe something no one has named. You're charmed the one from the shaman is still in your pocket. Your arrow lies beside you, and for the first time, you don't feel like an intruder. You feel like a spare button sewn into a coat. Not original, not critical, but part of it, attached. Useful, maybe. You smile at the thought. And then someone leans down in the dark and whispers two words. Tomorrow ride. You don't sleep much. Partly because of the nerves. Mostly because your tent flaps all night like it's trying to take off. The wind whistles through the seams of your gear, cold air threading across your cheeks and into your bones. You pull the blanket tighter around yourself, but it doesn't help. You're not sure what's worse, how cold it is, or how awake you are, because you know what tomorrow Iwaside ride means now. It doesn't mean another endurance test across open fields. It means you're joining a mock battle, an actual war drill. Not play fighting, not games, full contact, real weapons. Blunted maybe, but not soft. Mainstream historical fact. Mongol war games called nadam when done ceremonially, or simply referred to as training exercises, were essential to troop cohesion. Units were tested on tactics, speed, surprise attacks, and coordinated ambushes. These weren't reenactments. They were rehearsals for real conquest. At first light, you're already half dressed, boots laced, belt knotted properly this time. Your stomach growls, but no one seems interested in breakfast. There's a tension in the air again, but not fear. Anticipation. You're given a bow. It's not decorative. It's a composite bow short, curved, made of layered wood, horn, and sinew. Deadly even from horseback. You hold it like it might explode. Next comes the quiver. Leather, scratched and weathered. A handful of arrows blunted, but sharp enough to hurt. You mount your pony, which snorts as if it knows this is about to get stupid. You agree silently. The riders gather at the far edge of camp. The terrain ahead stretches flat and wide, with clusters of brush and a shallow ridge bisecting the field. The teams are chosen. You're placed in a group of younger warriors, some your age, some younger, all far more competent. Your objective is simple: hold the ridge. The opposing team's job? Take it. No one explains the rules further. Just one shout. Then galloping. Your team rides hard, bows drawn. You try to keep up, bouncing in the saddle, gripping with your knees, praying your quiver doesn't fall off. Arrows whistle, dust rises, horses split and circle. It's chaos, but organized. Like a dance you weren't taught. You reach the ridge just as the enemy crests the other side. They're fast. One swings wide, feinting left. Another draws and fires thwack. It hits a warrior beside you square in the chest. He falls dramatically, laughing as he rolls into the grass. Not dead, just out. You draw your bow, panic bubbling up like soda in your throat. You fired a bow exactly twice. Both times standing still. Both times badly. Now you're moving. The target is moving. Everything is moving. You aim. Release. Your arrow arcs through the air in the wrong direction entirely and disappears somewhere near a very confused goat. You try again. This time closer. The opposing rider turns and grins as your arrow clinks harmlessly off his saddle. He rides past, firing 2 perfect shots while he takes down another of your teammates. Your side is losing. Fringe fact: Mongol archers were trained to fire during exhalation to steady their aim. They use their thumbs, not fingers, to draw, aided by special rings carved from bone or jade. You are using whatever method comes closest to don't die. As more riders fall, you find yourself pulled into the final push. Only a handful remain on your team. You ride with them, circling back for a last defense. A dust cloud rises as 2 riders approach from opposite angles. A flanking move, you panic, your pony hesitates. You squeeze your knees and veer left-right into one of your own team members. You both crash to the ground in a tangle of limbs and hooves. Pain shoots up your leg. Your pony bolts, reins trailing behind. You lie on your back, whined knocked out, blinking at the sun like it insulted you personally. Then a hand reaches down. It's the rider you just collided with. He hauls you up with one motion, dusts you off, and claps you on the shoulder like, well, you tried. Historians still debate whether Mongol war games allowed for this kind of leniency, but given your performance, it's generous that no one's yelling. The battle ends, the ridge is taken, your team loses, no one sulks. There are no tantrums, no shouting, just tired riders returning to camp, discussing strategies, swapping stories, comparing bruises. Someone even compliments your unpredictable maneuver. You know they mean your fall. You accept it anyway. Back at camp, your horse has returned. Of course it has. It's eating someone else's laundry. You limp to the stream to wash your face. The water is cold enough to make you gasp. It helps. A little. You're invited to the fire that night not just to eat, but to sit. With them. Not at the edge. Not as a stray. As part of the line. Meat is passed around. A small pot of hot milk is shared. Someone retells a moment from the battle when a young rider pretended to fall, then took out 3 opponents from the ground. Everyone laughs. You recognize him. He winks at you. Fringe fact: Mongol culture prized cleverness in combat. Fake retreats were one of their most devastating tactics. Even Genghis Khan used them in major battles to lure enemies into traps. As the laughter fades, someone starts humming. A soft song. A lullaby, maybe. You don't understand the words, but you don't need to. It's a sound meant for tired bodies and heavy eyes. You lie back, letting the fire's warmth soak into your side. Your legs throb. Your hands are blistered. You're bruised, dusty, and humiliated. But you're not dead. And no one here expected perfection. They only expected that you show up. That you try. That you return the next day and try again. And somehow that might be enough. You wake up sore. Again. But this time, it's not just the usual dull ache. Your shoulder feels like someone tried to twist it off in your sleep. Your hip has a bruise the size of a melon. And your left thumb is swollen from gripping your bow too tighter, falling on it hard. You're not even sure anymore. Everything hurts in a general, non-specific way, like your body is filing a formal complaint. But there's no time for complaints in the Mongol Empire. Before the sun is even fully above the horizon, a horn blows. It's not a call to arms exactly, more like a summons. Sharp, brief, no confusion. People start gathering near the center of camp, forming lines. Polished armor glints in the morning light. The mood is serious. You follow the others toward the center, heart sinking. This isn't another drill. This is an audience with someone important. You're not sure if it's a general, a regional commander, or someone even higher. But the energy in camp tells you this visit matters. A lot. Mainstream historical fact. The Mongol military hierarchy was structured, strict, and merit-based. Units were organized into Arban, 10 men, Zun, 100, Mingun, 1,000 Barns, and Tumen, 10,000 Barns, each with its own officer. And those officers reported to a central power eventually, to the Great Khan himself. Inspections and personal appearances weren't rare. They were reminders that no one was too small to be seen or judged. You line up near the back, hoping to avoid attention. You're not sure what you're supposed to do, salute? Bow, nod, pretend to be invisible? The commander arrives without fanfare. No trumpets, no banners. Just a tall man in an armor coat the color of old smoke, mounted on a dark horse with a single red tassel at the bridle. His face is lined and unreadable, the kind of face that doesn't need to frown to be feared. He begins walking the rows, not riding walking. Slowly, deliberately. He studies each warrior like he's flipping through a book only he can read. When he reaches you, you stiffen. Try to look presentable. Remember to breathe. He stops. He looks you up and down, then says something in a low voice. You have no idea what he just said. He repeats it. Still nothing. Your brain stalls. Finally, one of the guards translates in a flat tone. Why are you here? That's a tough one to explain. You could say you're a time traveler. You could say you're lost. You could say it's a long story. Instead, you mutter something about being a helper. The guard relays this. The commander raises an eyebrow, then glances at the nearby warriors. Some smile slightly. It's not mocking. Just curious. He speaks again, this time gesturing toward your hands. The guard translates. Can you carry a message? You nod quickly. Probably too quickly. The commander reaches into his saddlebag and pulls out a thin strip of leather, folded several times and sealed with wax. It's not large. It could be a map, or a directive, or someone's fate. He hands it to you. Fringe fact. The Mongol postal system, the Yam, was one of the most efficient in the world. A vast relay network of mounted couriers and way stations allowed messages to travel hundreds of miles a day. Couriers carried wooden tablets called paisa, granting them authority and priority access to horses, food, and shelter. Refusing them aid was punishable, often by death. You don't have a paisa. You have a wax-sealed message and a deeply average pony. Your instructions are simple. Ride east until you reach the second ridge marked with stone piles. Find the camp there and deliver the message to a man named Jaruk. No deviations, no delay. You're handed a water skin and a strip of dried meat. That's it. A warrior leads you to your pony, thankfully, the same one you've bonded with, even if he still treats you like a mildly disappointing pet owner. You mount, adjust your gear, tuck the message into your sash, and nod. And then you ride. It starts off easy. It's off. The steppe rolls gently beneath you, the breeze at your back. The sun warms your face. You follow a trail so faint, it's more of a rumor than a road. Occasionally, you spot the stone piles markers left by other travelers or by shamans long ago. Some have small animal bones tucked beneath them. Others are adorned with faded scraps of cloth, fluttering like forgotten prayers. Then the wind shifts. The sky darkens not dramatically, but just enough to feel it. The pony gets jumpy. The trail disappears for a while, swallowed by tall grass. You lose the rhythm of the ride. Your mouth dries. Your hand keeps checking for the message, as if it might vanish. Then movement ahead. 2 riders. Distant. Dark shapes against the pale hills. You slow. They don't. They're coming your way. You don't have weapons. Just a small knife and your bow arrows. Typical. The riders approach quickly. You can't tell if they're friends or strangers. They don't wear the same armor as your camp. One raises a hand in greeting or possibly warning. You stop your horse. They pull up beside you, speaking rapidly in a dialect you don't understand. One gestures toward your saddlebag. The other looks at your sash. Their eyes narrow. You panic. But before anything escalates, another rider appears behind you, your teammate from the games. Where did he come from? You didn't even hear him approach. He says something sharply to the men. There's a tense pause. Then they back off. Not out of fear, out of recognition. They weren't bandits, just scouts from another unit. But you were close to crossing into their zone without clearance. 1 more mile and you might have been arrested or worse. Your teammate rides beside you the rest of the way. He doesn't say much, just nods toward the horizon where a thin column of smoke rises. The camp. You ride in just before dusk. The guards recognize your companion, let you both through. You're directed to a tent near the center. A Manjoric, you assume, waits outside. You dismount, offer the message with both hands. He breaks the seal, reads silently, then looks up and says, in a halting speech you can almost understand, "You, not bad." You blink. That's the most praise you've gotten in 10 days. He waves you off. Someone offers you food. Another offers a place to sleep. As the stars come out and the fire warms your sore legs, you wonder what that message said. You'll never know. But you delivered it. And somehow that feels like enough. You wake to a sound you can't immediately place, soft, steady, like someone sweeping sand with a branch. For a second you think it's part of a dream. Then the cold finds your face and the ache in your back reminds you, this is no dream. You sit up slowly, joints cracking. The G air is dim, just a sliver of dawn pushing through the roof ring. Outside, the air is heavy with stillness. No children laughing, no horses snorting, no chatter over morning fires. You know this feeling. The same one you felt before the inspection, before the ride, before the training games. Something serious is coming. By the time you step outside, most of the camp is already gathered in a large circle beyond the jairs. No drums, no horns, just silence. Heavy, deliberate silence. Your motion to join the edge of the group. No one looks at you. Everyone's gaze is fixed on the center, where a man kneels with his hands bound in front of him, head bareheaded, face expressionless, shoulders squared but relaxed, like someone who's already made peace with whatever's coming. You blink, unsure what's happening until someone near you mutters just 2 words in a quiet breath. Punishment ritual. You freeze. Mainstream historical fact. Under the Yasa, the legal code attributed to Genghis Khan, discipline in the Mongol Empire was swift, severe, and public. Justice wasn't something delivered behind closed doors. It was shown shared so no one could say they didn't know the consequences. A commander stands beside the accused. You recognize him, Jaruk, the man you delivered the message to just days ago. His posture is calm, controlled, but his face carries no warmth. He speaks in a low, firm voice. The tone is unmistakable. Judgment, finality, not rage, just resolve. You can't follow every word, but you catch fragments. A theft, supplies, repeated. Not a small offense. Then comes a name, and then silence. Fringe fact, in Mongol camps, stealing livestock or supplies, especially during harsh seasons, was considered treason against the group. In some cases, execution followed, but other times, punishment was symbolic. A marking, a scar, a loss of status. A second man steps forward, a warrior with a short, curved blade. Not drawn threateningly, not waved for drama, just held, ready. And then, without warning, the act is done. One clean motion. A braid falls to the ground. The crowd does not gasp. There is no murmur, only the sound of the wind picking up. The man does not flinch. He bows his head briefly, then rises when commanded. His braid the symbol of his manhood, his social place, his honor is gone. He's not executed, but in a way, a version of him has been. He walks away alone. No one follows, no one stops him. You feel a chill that isn't from the wind. Everyone begins to disperse. Slowly, silently, even the children seem to understand that this is not something to speak of lightly. Historians still debate whether punishments like these were widespread across all levels of Mongol society or reserved for military units, but most agree that public shaming, especially symbolic gestures like cutting the braid, carried a weight that lingered for life. You walk back toward the camp with the others, but your thoughts remain heavy. The man didn't scream, didn't plead. He knew everyone did. This wasn't cruelty. It was certainty. After breakfast, barely warm milk tea and a slice of dense cheese, you're given a quiet task, water fetching. You take the buckets and walk toward the nearby stream, grateful for the solitude. The landscape has changed since your arrival. Or maybe it's just your eyes. The wind no longer feels wild, it feels watchful. The silence isn't emptiness, it's structure. Everything here means something. Every action, every mistake. On your way back, you pass a group of boys mending a broken wagon wheel. One of them whistles at Yulo in casual and holds up a bone. You recognize it immediately. Shagai, the ankle bone used for games. You sit with them on the packed earth, grateful for the distraction. The game is simple. They toss the bones, trying to land them on specific sides. Horse, camel, goat, sheep. Each face means something. Each combination carries a story. They let you play. You lose, naturally. But when one of your bones lands upright, they nod in unison. Fringe fact. Shagai weren't just toys. They were tokens of fate. Some believed the bones could be used for divination. A good toss meant good luck. Some warriors carried specific bones into battle like tiny talismans. Later that afternoon, you're sitting by the fire with a few elders, helping mend leather straps. It's quiet work, repetitive but calming. One of them, a man with eyes so pale they almost vanish in the sunlight, starts telling a story. You don't understand the words, but the rhythm of his voice carries you along. At one point, he pauses and gestures to your hands, then to your belt. You realize he's talking about you. He mimics riding, he mimics fallen, then points to the fire, then to his heart. You don't need translation, has saying, you fell, but you kept going. That matters. As dusk settles in, a rider approaches your fire. Young, familiar, it's the one who's been helping you all along. He sits beside you and stirs the fire with a stick. Then simply, tomorrow, you ride back. You raise your eyebrows. Back? He nods. Home camp, old place. Then he adds, but not same. You sit quietly, watching the fire crackle. He's right. You're not the same. You arrived unsure, weak, confused, barely tolerated. Now, you've delivered a message, witnessed discipline, earned small nods of approval, been handed a cup without asking. You're still clumsy, still slow, still out of place in a dozen ways, but you're not an outsider anymore. Not entirely. That night, under the stars, you sleep better than you have in days. Not because you're comfortable, but because, in this world where mercy is rare and respect is earned inch by inch, you're beginning to understand what it means to belong. The next morning comes slow and golden. You wake before the sun crests the hills, but already there's movement, soft footfalls, murmured greetings, the clatter of pots being stacked and loaded. You sit up inside the now familiar chair, still wrapped in your wool blanket, and listen. Today you're going back. Not home, exactly. Just back to the first camp, the place where you nearly froze your toes off, where your saddle slipped, where you almost got flattened in a mock battle. You'd think the idea of returning would make your stomach churn. But it doesn't. Because somehow, after everything, the ride, the message, the punishment, the games, the nights by the fire, you feel like you're returning with something. Not trophies, not praise, just proof. Proof that you made it through. Mainstream historical fact. Mongol society wasn't sentimental, but it was observant. Actions mattered more than words. Survivors, those who followed orders, earned their keep, didn't collapse under pressure, gradually earned a place. Even outsiders could be adopted into units or clans, though full acceptance took time, lineage, and luck. You eat a quick breakfast of leftover meat and barley, then join the riders forming at the edge of camp. There's no ceremony, no announcement, just saddles adjusted, reins checked, horses nudged forward. Your guide, the same young rider who's helped you again and again, tosses you a water skin and mounts up beside you. He doesn't speak, just gives a sharp whistle, and the small procession begins. The steppe rolls out ahead in pale green waves. Your pony knows the route better than you do and settles into an easy rhythm. The wind carries the occasional call of hawks overhead, the buzzing of early summer insects, and the gentle creak of saddle leather. Hours pass. No one talks much, but that's fine. You're beginning to understand that silence here isn't awkward. It's woven into the fabric of the day, like wind and dust and sunlight. You find it calming. Eventually, you stop at a familiar rock outcrop, the same one you passed days ago during your courier run. There, tucked beneath the stones, someone's left a tiny stack of shagai bones. Your guide notices you noticing. He dismounts, kneels, and adds another bone to the stack. You follow suit, placing the one you kept in your pocket. He looks at it, recognizes it, maybe, and nods. Fringe fact. It was common for Mongol riders to leave tokens bones, scraps of cloth, even small carved stones at sacred waypoints. These weren't just superstitions. They were part offering, part memory, part map. A quiet I was here. You ride again, the terrain slowly shifting from rolling grassland to wide, dry patches and low ridges. Dust kicks up behind your horses, curling in lazy spirals. At one point, your pony stumbles slightly on a slope. You grip tight, lean forward, and steady him without even thinking. And the rider beside you glances over and smiles not wide, just a flash of teeth. You don't need words. That small reaction, that's a passing grade. Historians still argue whether Mongol integration was truly open or strictly tribal. Some records mention foreign captives being folded into steppe units and rising through ranks. Others suggest stricter limits unless bloodlines matched. But what's clear is this: survival and loyalty earned a kind of respect. You crest the final ridge in late afternoon, and there it is, your old camp. The layout is the samagers in neat rows, fire pits, the gathering circle, but something has shifted. Or maybe it's you. You dismount and stretch your aching legs. The dust on your cloak is a different color than when you left. Your boots are more worn. Your face, when you catch it in a puddle's reflection, looks older. Not aged, just used. People notice your return. Some stare. A few nod. One elder squints, then grunts approvingly. You catch sight of the boy who once handed you a sheepskin tunic. He's chewing on a stick and watching you like he's trying to solve a riddle. You unpack your saddlebag and return the empty water skin. The young rider who brought you back doesn't linger. He simply salutes 2 fingers to his brow and rides off again without a word. You're left standing in the center of camp, and no one tells you to move. You're not scolded, not shooed away, not given orders. For the first time, you're trusted to know what to do. So, you do. You find your old tent still there, tucked behind a stack of dried dung fuel. You clean it, restack the mats, straighten the bedroll. Someone tosses you a roll of fresh sinew. Without asking, you begin repairing arrow fletchings beside the others. Your hands don't shake this time. Later, as the sun dips low and the fire is lit, you're invited quietly, casually, to the main circle. Not as a guest, not as an amusement, but as a person with dust on their boots, leather at their waist, and calluses on their fingers. A person who went away, came back, and kept going. Fringe fact, Mongol camps didn't mark promotions with medals or banners. Advancement came as silent shifts, being given more to carry, being asked instead of ordered, being trusted in small, invisible ways. It wasn't loud, it was lived. You sit by the fire as someone tells a story, an old tale, maybe fiction, maybe memory. It flows like the wind, meandering, soft, occasionally biting. You laugh at the right moments. You pass the bowl when it's your turn. You belong. Or at least you're no longer a stranger. And in this world, on this step, where tomorrow could mean riding into war, famine, or storm, that's more than enough. The next few days pass in a kind of strange calm. After everything, the riding, the inspection, the mock battle, the message delivery, the ritual punishment, you half expect some new disaster to come galloping over the hills, but it doesn't. Instead, your days settle into something dangerously close to routine. You wake up before sunrise. You stretch your sore limbs and roll your shoulders until something cracks in a satisfying, slightly alarming way. You clean your gear. You haul water. You help sort meat and dry dung bricks for fuel. You mend broken arrows, and no one yells at you anymore. That, in itself, is unsettling. Mainstream historical fact: Mongol camps functioned with minimal central instruction. Everyone from the youngest child to the oldest elder had a role. Efficiency, when drilled, it was absorbed. The moment you stopped needing reminders, you became part of the machine. You're no expert, but you've stopped needing reminders. Even your pony seems marginally less offended by your presence. When you approach, he doesn't immediately try to walk away. He still looks at you like he's waiting for an apology, but progress is progress. Then one morning, your quiet rhythm is interrupted. You're summoned again. A warrior stops you mid-task and gestures for you to follow. You wipe your hands on your tunic and trail behind him, trying to look like someone who's definitely not nervous. He says nothing, just leads you through camp, past the main fire, around a line of grers, and finally to a large tent you've never entered before. Inside, there's a man you've seen only once, from a distance during the inspection. He's not wearing armor now, just a thick woolen robe, simple but precise. He doesn't look up at first. He's reading something, a strip of leather, maybe a message. Then he folds it, tucks it into a pouch, and finally meets your eyes. He speaks softly. You don't understand the words, but your brain somehow understands the tone. He's asking if you're ready. Ready for what? Fringe fact: in Mongol society, tests weren't always physical. Sometimes they were logistical. Deliver a horse to a far-off camp. Lead a group of goats safely across a frozen stream. Retrieve a lost child. The tasks were varied, but the lesson was the same. Adaptability equals survival. Your task is simpler than you expect. Take a small group of sheep and lead them to pasture, but not the one near the camp. The next one, across the stream, a half-day's walk. You nod like this is no big deal. Inside, you are not nodding. You are internally screaming. Because you've never heard it anything except maybe a group of confused tourists during a museum tour. And even then, someone walked off to buy snacks and never came back. You're given a staff curved at one end and a small pouch with dried berries and cheese. Then you're led to the herd. They're waiting. 6 sheep, all staring directly at you. You stare back. This is going to be a long day. You whistle. One of them blinks. You wave your staff. They do not move. You try walking forward, hoping they'll follow. They do not. You sigh. Take a berry from the pouch. Toss it. Nothing. Eventually, a boy maybe 8 years old wanders over and claps once. The sheep immediately start walking. You gape. He grins, shrugs, and leaves. Historians still argue how Mongol children were trained in herding, but by age 6 or 7, most had deep animal knowledge. Sheep, goats, horses, camels. These weren't just livestock. They were livelihood, inheritance, wealth. Learning their behavior was like learning grammar. You get the herd moving slowly, with frequent pauses to panic. The stream is shallow but icy cold. You roll up your trousers and step in, teeth gritted. The sheep hesitate, then follow because somehow you're now their leader. Or at least the one with snacks. You reach the far pasture before noon. The land opens wide, no trees, just rippling grass, wind-carved stones, and distant hills that look like waves frozen in time. You sit. The sheep graze. You listen to the wind hum over the steppe and think, this might be your quietest moment yet. Then you hear it. A strange clinking. Metal? Or maybe stone. You stand, heart quickening. A rider approaches over the rise, fast. Not racing, but with purpose. The figure is cloaked. Their horse is lean, its breath steaming. You step in front of your sheep, staff in hand, like you're about to duel a storm. But the rider slows, lifts one hand in greeting, and calls out a word you recognize. Your name. It's the young warrior. The one who first showed you how to hold your bow. The one who pulled you from the dirt during the battle. Hez holding something wrapped in fabric. He dismounts, offers it with both hands. You take it and unwrap it slowly. It's a bowstring. Handmade. Finely braided. Stronger than the one you've been using. A gift. He points at your old bow, slung behind your shoulder, and says something in a low voice. You don't know the words, but the tone is clear. If you're going to stay, you should shoot straight. Then he helps you string the bow. Fringe fact. Mongol bowstrings were often made from animal sinew, twisted by hand and carefully kept dry. A good string could mean the difference between survival and death on the steppe. Together you test it. You draw, hold, release. The arrow slices through air and lands solidly in a tuft of grass. It's not perfect, but it flies straight. That night, back at camp, you eat with the others around the fire. No one says much, but someone hands you meat without asking. Someone else gestures for you to take a place closer to the center. Not at the edge. The firelight flickers on your new bowstring. You still don't speak the language. You still mess up saddle knots and trip over tent ropes, but you're beginning to understand what matters. Show up, help, listen, try again. In the Mongol Empire, sometimes that's the only test that counts. It begins with a strange stillness. No wind, no birds, Even the usual morning noises, the occasional whinny, the clink of ladles, a cough from someone rising too early have faded. You step outside your jeer, half awake, blanket still draped around your shoulders like a cape. And that's when you notice it. The sky looks wrong. It isn't dark, not exactly. But the color is off pale yellow, bleeding into bruised gray, like an old bruise under thin skin. The horses are restless, pulling at their tethers. Dogs slink close to tents, ears low. You don't need to be a seasoned herder to know something is coming. Then you hear it. A sound like distant growling. Not thunder, not quiet. It's lower, more constant, like a giant exhaling across the steppe. Mainstream historical fact. Mongol nomads had a deep, almost intuitive understanding of weather patterns. Long before meteorology, they could predict storms by scent, wind direction, the pressure in their sinuses, or even how the dogs behaved. When things got quiet, too quiet, it usually meant trouble. By the time the warning horn sounds, half the camp is already in motion. You throw on your outer coat, grab your boots, and stumble into the growing chaos. Nobody tells you what to do, because now you're expected to know. You join a team reinforcing Jers along the western edge, the side most exposed to the open plain. The ropes are thick, stiff with cold. Your fingers burn as you pull them tight, and a hammer stakes deeper into the earth with a smooth river stone. Around you, others work quickly but calmly, no shouting, no panic, just motion. The first gust hits like a slap. You stagger sideways, nearly losing your grip. A tent flap whips past your face like a sail. Dust stings your eyes, your nose, your tongue. You pull your scarf higher over your mouth and double your effort. Then the wind really arrives. It howls across the steppe with such force that even the strongest warriors brace themselves, leaning into it like trees in a storm. Rain follows, but not gentle drops. It slams sideways, each droplet like a tiny pebble against your skin. You squint through the torrent and see a child maybe 6 crying, near a collapsing goat pen. You don't think. You run. Slip once. Catch yourself. Scoop the child under one arm and carry them toward a more secure tent. Someone throws the flap open, helps you inside. You set the child down. She's sobbing, but safe. You don't have time to comfort her. Back outside, the storm is only getting worse. Fringe fact. Summer storms on the steppe weren't just dangerous because of rain or wind. They could bring flash floods, hail, or even tornado-like gusts that lifted entire jers into the air. Some herders told stories of finding their yurts a mile away, perfectly intact after a sudden storm. You try to help stabilize a jer whose sidewall is buckling. 3 of you pull ropes in unison. Someone else ties them to the wheel of a cart for extra weight. Your boots slip in the mud, but you hold, grit in your teeth, water dripping from your nose, arms shaking. It feels like hours. It's probably only one. Then suddenly, it eases. The rain slows to a drizzle. The wind fades to a low moan. You exhale for the first time in what feels like forever. Camp looks like it's been through a battle. 1 jeer is flattened. 2 more are damaged. Several fences have come down. But the animals are mostly accounted for. No one's missing. No one's hurt. That alone feels like a miracle. You sink to the ground near the central fire pit, soaked to the bone, shaking from exertion and cold. Someone drapes a dry cloak over your shoulders. Another presses a bowl of hot broth into your hands. You drink greedily, barely tasting it, just needing warmth. For the first time, no one is looking at you like a visitor. No sideways glances, no hesitant gestures, just nods. You get the feeling that if you hadn't been there, if you hadn't grabbed that child or held that line, someone else would have had to, or it might have gone worse. That's how trust is earned here, quietly, in the middle of the storm. Later that afternoon, after the sky clears and the sun returns in that bashful post-rain glow, a small group gathers near a scorched tree at the edge of camp. You follow, not because you're invited, but because no one stops you. A shaman tall, cloaked, his long hair tied back in a strip of deer, hide burns a bit of dried grass in a carved wooden bowl. The smoke curls upward into a pale blue spiral, carried gently on the recovering breeze. He says nothing at first, then begins to hum. The crowd bows their heads. You do too. A woman next to you presses a tiny square of felt into your hand. She nods toward the earth. You kneel. Place the felt against your forehead, then bury it under a smooth stone. A thank you. A memory. A gesture to say, we survived this one. Fringe fact. After violent storms, Mongol camps often performed small rituals to give thanks to the sky spirits. Some burned horsehair, some tied blue silk to trees, others simply shared food in silence beneath the open sky. The exact ritual didn't matter, the intent did. That night, camp is subdued but steady. Fires are lit. Damaged tents are repaired. Children chase each other again, as if the storm never happened. You help rebuild the goat pen you'd seen fall. It's muddy work. You lose a boot at one point. You're handed a joke instead of a scolding. And later, when food is passed around the fire, someone hands you your portion without waiting for you to reach out first. That's new. You eat quietly, listening to someone tell a story, something about a stubborn ox and a man who thought he could ride it like a horse. The punchline makes everyone laugh. You don't understand the words, but the timing's perfect. You laugh too. They let you. Historians still argue how much of Mongol resilience came from strategy versus mindset. But stories from travelers suggest that adaptability was valued more than strength. The ability to bend without breaking, to learn quickly, to endure without bitterness. And now, sitting in wet socks around a smoky fire, bowl in hand, you realize you've done exactly that. Not perfectly, not gracefully, but enough. When the next storm comes, and it will, you won't wait for someone to tell you what to do. You'll already be running toward the rope lines, because now you're one of them. By now, the rhythm of steppe life has settled into your bones. Your body aches in different places, but they're familiar aches earned, not inflicted. Your feet have toughened. Your hands know what to do with a rope without thinking. Even your sense of direction, once as hopeless as a dropped feather in the wind, has sharpened. You can tell east from west now just by the quality of the morning light. So, of course, they decide it's time to shake things up again. One morning, your name is Caldwell. Something vaguely shaped like your name, and you're handed a bow. It's not yours. It's not the one you've been practicing with behind tents, missing almost every third shot. This one is better, taller, heavier, made from polished horn and wood. It's string tight and humming with tension. You hold it awkwardly, and before you can ask why, someone hands you a quiver full of arrows. Then they point to a pony. You glance between the bow, the pony, and the person doing the pointing. Surely not. Oh, but yes. Mainstream historical fact. The Mongol composite bow was one of the most effective weapons of the pre-modern world. Compact, deadly, and light enough to use on horseback, it gave the Mongol cavalry an unmatched advantage. Training began in early childhood. By adolescence, most could shoot accurately while galloping at full speed. You are not in adolescence, nor are you remotely skilled at galloping or shooting, or even combining the two in your imagination. But apparently today is your initiation. You're led to a clearing outside camp where a makeshift track has been marked out with bundles of grass. At intervals, small wooden targets discs, painted white with red centers, stand wobbling in the wind. The object is simple: ride the course and hit as many as you can. You mount up, heart pounding. The pony snorts and shifts beneath you, clearly aware that you have no idea what you're doing. Someone claps twice. That's your cue. You nudge the pony forward, slowly at first. You grip the bow like it's made of soap. The quiver rattles at your hip. The wind picks up just enough to tug at your sleeve. You approach the first target. You try to knock an arrow, you drop it. You curse silently because you're trying to be respectful. You grab another. This time it stays. You pull the string, take a deep breath, aim, and release. The arrow lands 10 feet short of the target, spectacularly wide. You hear laughter light, not cruel. You keep going. Second shot, closer. Third shot, you actually graze the outer ring. Fourth, a direct hit, though you suspect it was luck and wind working together behind your back. Yeah, fringe fact. Some Mongol riders train to shoot both left and right-handed, while moving, switching grip, and draw mid-gallop to maintain a steady volley. They could twist in the saddle, lean under the horse's neck, and even fire backward while retreating. You are not quite there, but you do manage to stay on the pony, fire all your arrows, and only drop 2. When you reach the end of the course, breathless and sweating, you realize no one is clapping. Instead, they nod. A quiet, approving kind of nod. Someone hands you a skin of fermented mare's milk hairag. It's sour, fizzy, strange, and you drink it like a champion. That night, you sit around the fire, your muscles still vibrating from the tension of the ride. One of the older men, the one who once smirked at your saddle, fumbling leans over and points at the sky. He names the stars. You repeat them. He shakes his head. Corrects you. You try again. The whole camp is quieter than usual. You've learned this often happens before something big. You're not wrong. The next morning, you're told the camp will move. It takes you a moment to understand. Move? All of it? Yes. Gers, carts, animals, everything. Historians still argue how often full Mongol camps relocated. Some sources claim every few weeks. Others say seasonal movements were more typical. But when they did move, they did it fast. And they did it together. You're given a task: help break down the ger where you've been sleeping. It's strange, folding up your life like a tent. The roof ring is unlatched. The walls collapse inward like a sigh. The felt is rolled, tied, loaded onto carts. What was once a home becomes a series of bundles, strapped and hoisted, as mobile as everything else here. The land is left clean, no trash, no ashes, no mark. It's as if you were never there. The move begins before midday. Dozens of riders lead herds ahead. Carts creak under weight. Children ride ponies with alarming confidence. You walk beside your group, leading a donkey whose job is to carry water skins. It's grumpy. You respect that. The wind shifts. New smells, sweeter, dustier, with hints of flowering grass, ride the breeze. The land rolls on, endless. And yet you don't feel lost. Somewhere along the way, the landscape stopped feeling empty. Now it feels like space. Room to move, room to change, room to become something more than what you were. As the sun dips low, you arrive at the new set, a wide patch of green tucked between hills. The bones of the new camp take shape. Poles are unpacked. Walls rise. Smoke curls from fresh fires. You help raise the ger. This time, no one has to show you how. You wake to the scent of new earth and wild thyme, carried through the flap of your freshly raised ger. The sky is a cold blue bowl above, smeared with long feathers of cloud, and your breath makes pale ghosts in the morning air. Your body feels stiff, but it's The stiffness of a job done, not a wound. You sit up, stretch, and hear the bones in your back make the usual protests. Outside, camp is coming alive in slow layers. The lowing of cattle, the scrape of iron against wood, the occasional bark of a tethered dog trying to act brave. Another day begins, but this one's different, because this morning you've been invited on a hunt. Mainstream historical fact: Mongol hunts, especially the organized NKHR hunts, were more than just food gathering, they were drills. Controlled exercises in formation, communication, and group cohesion. The entire camp could participate, even children and elders, moving as one to drive animals across miles of land into a central trap. You're not heading into a military simulation, just a small group, 6 riders, a few bows, a handful of dogs. Still, the purpose is clear. You're not here to prove you're a great hunter. You're here to prove you can move with the pack. They give you a shorter bow, one that won't wear out your shoulders as quickly, and they assign you a spot near the back safe, but still part of the arc. A semicircle of riders begins to form. The plan: drive a group of deer out of the hills and into the open, where the more experienced hunters will take the shots. You mount up. Your pony seems unimpressed, but at least doesn't try to throw you. A whistle cuts through the morning chill, and you ride. There's no shouting, no bugles, just a graceful, widening line of riders moving in rhythm, like fingers spreading across the steppe. At first, it's exhilarating. You feel the wind in your teeth, your eyes watering with speed, the drums of hooves on earth, the snorts and whinnies, the dogs weaving like living smoke between ponies. All of it stirs something ancient in your chest. But the terrain roughens. You crest a small hillock, and suddenly your pony slips in loose gravel. You barely hold on, fingers clutching the reins like prayer beads. The horse recovers, but you've lost rhythm. You drift from the line. Panic flares. If you fall too far behind, you break the formation. If you ride ahead, you might spook the deer before the others are ready. If you do nothing, you might be useless again. Fringe fact: there are stories, half legend, half logbook, of Mongol boys being dropped alone into hunts at age 9, expected to adapt or be left behind. Some succeeded, some vanished. The lesson wasn't cruelty. It was necessity. If you couldn't read the wind, you couldn't survive the world. You urge your pony forward, whispering soft nonsense to him, trying to calm yourself more than him. Slowly, you find your place again, just outside the arc. Not perfect, but present. The dogs begin to bark, sharp and focused. You hear someone hiss a command in the distance. The deer appear. They erupt from the brush like startled spirits, sleek, fast, bounding low to the ground, a wave of fur and panic and dust. The led riders loose their arrows. One strikes true, another grazes. One misses, but recovers quickly. You don't shoot, not because you forgot, because you chose not to. This shot isn't yours. Your place, right now, is to hold the line. Keep moving. Keep pressing forward. Let the others do what they're trained to do. Later, if you're trusted, you'll have a target of your own. The chase fades into the distance. 2 deer fall. The rest vanish into the hills. The riders regroup, panting, grinning, slapping each other on the backs. The dogs dance between hooves, eager for scraps. No one praises you. No one mocks you either. One of the elders rides past, points at you, then points at his own heart. He nods. You nod back. Historians still argue what made Mongol forces so adaptable. Their tactics, their gear, their culture, but many agree it was a shared understanding of when to lead and when to follow. To act not for glory, but for the strength of the circle. That night, the camp feasts. Nothing extravagant, just roasted venison, fermented milk, and dried fruits softened in broth. But after the hunt, it tastes like luxury. You eat in silence, watching embers rise like fireflies into the dark. Then, unexpectedly, you're handed a small pouch. Inside, two arrowheads. Worn, not new, one chipped, one smooth. You glance up in confusion. The man who gives them to you says only this: keep. For next time. You nod. You don't promise anything, but you do understand. Later, as you lie beneath the jeers felt ceiling, your eyes trace patterns in the shadows. The wind outside has softened to a gentle rustle, like someone turning pages in a very old book. You breathe deep. You are tired, sore, dusty, and bruised. And yet you've lasted. 24 hours ago, try 24 days. You're no longer the outsider who couldn't ride, couldn't aim, couldn't sleep on the ground without complaining. You've learned to move in silence, to miss a shot and still be proud, to carry more than your weight and want to. Because in the Mongol Empire, survival isn't about glory. It's about becoming someone worth riding beside. The fire's low now. Its light flickers gently against the inner walls of your jair, casting long, slow-moving shadows. Outside, the steppe exhales. The wind has calmed. The dogs are curled up in silence. Even the horses shift only slightly, adjusting to dreams. Your body feels heavier with every breath. Not the heavy of exhaustion, but the kind that comes when you're safe, when your part of the day's work is done. The ache in your arms no longer stings, it hums. A quiet reminder that you've done something that mattered. In the distance, a single note of flute music drifts across the night. Thin, wandering. You're not even sure if it's real or just something your mind has invented to help you sleep. But it works either way. You pull your blanket higher, letting the soft wool wrap around your shoulders, your chest, your tired knees. Your fingers relax. Your heartbeat slows. Maybe tomorrow will bring another hunt. Maybe another storm. But for now, in this small circle of stillness, under a roof held up by hands that now trust yours, you are exactly where you need to be. And you're not alone. You made it through the wind, the dust, the fire, and the cold. You felt fear and hunger and pride and something like peace. Now close your eyes. Let the wind carry your breath. Let the horses rest. And let the steppe hold you gently until morning. End of story. Sweet dreams.